Are you okay?
Yes, I'm just gonna link it because it's hilarious.
Okay. I'm like, we're about to go live, and then you just start laughing. And I'm like, okay. Not sure what that means.
Well, I was looking at this and I'm like, the copyrighted characters, that's kind of dumb. And then I saw skin shirts and I was like, that's kind of dumb. And then I read what they were.
Hang on a second. I have to turn all the notifications off, or those are just going to keep going off all show, probably. Just not my intent. And then we'll get things kicked off. Hey, James. Thanks for joining us in the chat. Wish there was an easier way to do this in Telegram. I do not know why it's telling me to update Telegram. I just did it like 3 days ago. There we go. Let me go back up to here to see this. What is DOS? Okay. Free sports logo. It's so messed up. The copyrighted characters, which may not be copyrighted very much longer unless Congress moves on it. That'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I did not have time to make a cocktail or actually brew tea, having just got in from the road. So we shall see how it goes. Shall we begin?
Yep.
10, 10, 10 across the board. COL Drag Race.
Hey, kitty girls. It is Monday, June 25th, 2018. And welcome to Cubs Out Loud Drag Race T-Time, Season 10, episode number 13, which may or may not have been lucky, depending on your viewpoint. It's the reunion show, or perhaps now known as the scandal show, or the drama show, depending on how you want to look at it. So, for those of you that don't know, my name's Gary, and with me is my ever furry-faced and fabulous co-host.
Hi, it's Chester.
And we are going to spill some tea. We're going to talk about this drag race, never-ending kind of thing. But, ooh, boy, did it get juicy this week. What's interesting to me is that my Facebook didn't really light up about this, but in our Entourage chat group, people seem to be just chomping at the bit. They wanted to like get some thoughts and some things out there, and I kind of don't blame them. So, how about we get into our first part? Yeah. So this is not a usual show because it's the reunion. So there's like no mini maxi and runway and all that. So this is kind of a little more about like playback moments. Speaking of playbacks, before I forget, Damon is not here with us tonight because he is on vacay. He is in the land of legs and feathers, also known as Vegas, on vacation with his man. So
If he does not go out to a show out there, I'll be mad as hell.
I believe they went and saw the Cirque du Soleil Beatles show.
Okay, well, I meant like a drag show, but that's all right. Because it's Cirque du Soleil, they're pretty fucking, this.
Yeah, well, that's true. That is very true. That would be a little like, girl, go all the way to Vegas. You can go see the Dream Girls or anything.
Brittany,
yeah.
Brittany puts on a hell of a good show, I gotta say.
Yeah. Well, wait, are you talking about the Britney Spears or are you talking about like Derek Barry is?
No, Britney Spears.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Believe it or not, she came to our little tiny town of Grand Forks, North Dakota, and I was blown away by the theatrics put into her show. It was a very, like pop star Madonna over the top theatrical troupe.
Wow.
And I loved every minute of it.
Also, speaking of judges, before I forget, we had a special guest lined up for last week that potentially was going to come this week. And unfortunately, Anita John was not able to join us. They had some thing come up that delayed them. And so they are taking care of some stuff for their physical health. And we wish them all the best. And we look forward to maybe in the future having a show with her on. But I was super stoked and excited to have one of Chicago's own ladies on, but we'll get to that later, hopefully. That being said, all right, I'm gonna say this. I watched the reunion live. I rewatched it again once it hit iTunes the next day without all the bleeps. And then I ended up listening to the audio of it. So in a way, I got the whole show 3 times, but that was in the first like 36 hours.
Okay.
And then I went away for the weekend and I hadn't really listened to it since or watched it. So my brain's probably going to dump and forget some things because I didn't really take a whole lot of notes. So, Chester, what did you think of the show?
Sorry. Let's see. We could have been here all night watching them go on and on and on about whatever they wanted to go on about, particularly people bitching at each other for whatever unresolved bullshit that they couldn't have resolved in the past few months. Well, granted, the last 4 queens, although they didn't really have any beefs with each other, so I don't know.
Well, they're still competing for the crown.
No, I get that. I just meant like why were some of the things not discussed, off air? Like some of the things that had come up, like Monique having problems with Kameron.
Well, okay, you bring up a valid point about that. So my understanding was that the Vixen and Aquaria were cool. They had worked things out. That like some of those things had actually been resolved. I think the Cracker Asia thing was actually fine. And that's part of the thing I'm having a beef with the show about, is that questions were asked, topics were brought up that didn't have to happen. Now, about the Monique and Kameron thing, my understanding was that Kameron shut down social media like in the last couple of weeks or whatever leading up to the finale. And so I don't know if that's a piece of the puzzle, but I mean, Monique called Kameron out. I mean, that to me was one of the biggest revelations of the show, was Kameron suddenly turned into this season's Valentina during the reunion in that she apparently has multiple sides to her personality or her character or how she handles herself. Because I was shocked when Monique when she's like that face right there. Who is that? Who is that? And I was like, oh. But then when I went back and watched it again, I kind of saw what she meant. It was almost like she went into a zone or something.
Her facial expression completely changed. It was her being like this, and then all of a sudden.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh, damn. Monique was so like in about this. She got up out of her seat and walked to represent and like mimic and show what it's like to be in a location where they perform together, like how Kameron treats herself. But part of this, I think, goes back to the narrative of her character that was said during the season. Kameron flat out said, I don't get prepared in bars. I prepare at home, and then I show up to the gig locally. I do my thing. I don't hang out a whole lot. Like, she said, that's just not how I am. And even in the very last episode, 12, the last one when they competed in, quote unquote, she went over next to the mirrors, and then she was like, it is too hot over here. Which, after 11 weeks or episodes or whatever of being out in the middle of the room with your own little mirror and stuff, I can see where she's over in front of all those lights, not just the marquee lights, which are putting off heat, but probably these, studio lights that are above to help light them up and stuff. I can imagine she was just like, oh, this is no. So I think there was meant to be drama about that she went back to her station. And I was like, she flat out said, I don't want my face to melt. So I didn't think it was that big of a deal. It's kind of comical to me that she pointed out something in all the seasons that no one's really discussed. I think all the rest of the girls got used to it. And she's like, no, she's probably like, it is 10 degrees cooler over here, you stupid bitches. Like, you want to be over there? Go right ahead. So to me, bringing that up, my point is, I think Kameron, I don't know how else to say it. I think she's a little socially like awkward in terms of when she's working.
I'm not Kameron. I can't speak for her, but I can speak for myself.
Mm-hmm.
When I show up at our bear run, whether I'm there to work or I'm there for, vacation or whatever, when I show up, I am like in a zone. I'm like, okay, I need to go check in, go take my bags to my room, unpack, go get registered. These are the things that I need to do. And people think that I'm cold and distant because I don't stop in the hallway and talk to 20 people on the way to my room. It's not in my focus. I am not in vacation mode yet. I am a traveler. I have anxiety. I'm in high, what is that? There's a word for it where you're super focused on something. But
tunnel vision?
What's that?
Tunnel vision?
Well, yes, it's tunnel vision. But anyway, I have a feeling Kameron is the same way. I am here to work and do a job, and my focus is there. I am not here to hang out with my friends. I'm here to work, do my job, go home. I do that at work now. I show up to work and I clock in and I go to my desk and I immediately start working. And then people want to sit around and chit chat. And I'm like, that's great. I don't really give a shit about your dog and how they puked all over your bed last night. I'm working. Talk to me on break.
You're so mean. You don't connect with anybody.
It's just, I'm focused. I'm there to work and to do a job.
Right. No, and I can understand that. And I think that's also a piece of what that relates to, that you I don't want to say compartmentalize, but you focus on what it is that you need to do. And I mean, I do that with my event. That's one of the things that I was accused of many years ago. I know this is a little bit of a sidebar to what we're talking about for the show, but like I kind of know people who have met me and seen, you might very well know, like there's me and then there's the run version of me because I'm busy putting on an event. So I'm thinking about the strategy and all that kind of stuff. So I get like, yeah, you can, when you're in your role or when you're doing your stuff. Now, since then, I've seen some of the promo stuff and the interviews and that, and I've seen Kameron, and she has no problem talking on a microphone, talking to camera. Like, so what I think really that was a kind of about, which got brought up, was that Kameron has a strategically was talked about / accused and questioned that in this season she was not going to give anything away when the cameras are rolling, like for them to turn into something. And I think that's sort of what ultimately, if that really was intentional or what happened, as it appears the way that her sisters feel in the season, that's really worked against her suddenly out in the blue. And that's what I mean by like, kind of like she's the Valentina of the season, because I was like, whoa, everybody except the Vixen, we'll talk about that in a second, like seemed to just kind of turn on her towards the end of the episode. Yeah. So I can understand where you're coming from, that you feel that we could have been there all night. My impression is that the filming of that took maybe about 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours, which turned into like an hour and a half episode, which altogether is like an hour and 4 minutes or whatever. So there's stuff that we don't have. Some people in chat have kind of said, you know, I wonder what happened, you know. By the way, this show is nothing but spoilers. So like, if you didn't watch the reunion, then shame on you. The Vixen walked out. There was a heated conversation, and she has done interviews since then. She there was a print article online called "The Vixen Speaks Out," and it was from intomore.com, which I found very interesting and fascinating. I also ended up watching a an Instagram video that was recorded and posted to YouTube by somebody that she did that was an hour long. I thought was really interesting. She basically, you know, was really kind of spilling tea in a way and talking about like how her perspective is on stuff. And she has explained both in the interview and in online about why she left when she did. And I personally was not a fan of the moment that happened after she left, when they came back and Rue was kind of like, you know, does anyone want to talk about what just happened? At first, I was like, okay, this is interesting. Like, we're not going to make this awkward and not discuss it. But then, like, the conversation kind of took a turn. And as Vixen pointed out, like, her perspective is Rue is supposed to be a moderator, not insert herself into discussion, so to speak. So I don't know. Like, I think there was a lot that came out of that I found pretty interesting. Speaking of a lot of things that came out of it, so my thoughts, kind of in general, were this was the night of so many hashtags. The first one for me was season 1, Mother Rue is back. And we had kind of talked about that before it aired in our Entourage chat on Telegram, that back in season 1 reunion, it is infamous now. You can find it on YouTube. Rue, Paul, and Tammy Brown get into it with each other. I still love it. It's one of my favorite moments, but it's because it is the rarest moment ever. I still think to this day, because it didn't happen in this reunion, a queen, a contestant, a daughter actually kind of clap back at Rue and shut her up for a brief moment, because in that infamous,
He was speechless.
well, Tammy like had the upper hand, because what happened in that moment, and it happened again in this one, but differently. In the very first one, Rue came unglued. And that was the moment that made me fall in love with RuPaul, only because I recognize in her like the fire and the passion of her personality, but she always keeps it tempered because, you know, the cameras are on and she wants to have a certain character as she's known by, but she just kind of wig snatched in that moment. And she started, you know, kind of flipping out on Tammy, and she dropped the F-bomb. And that was the best moment, because that's what Tammy Brown says, excuse your mouth. Like, and just like that snapped her back and was like, And in a way, I think it was a judgmental, like, you can yell at me all you want, but you don't have to go there with me about it. Like, you don't need to be vulgar about it. Because then Rue just kind of like sits and steams for a moment and then continues on. And in this one, I think that moment could have happened, but Asia didn't. Asia has a breakdown about the Vixen leaving because Asia has a connection with her. And as Asia is talking and processing her thoughts about what happened, it all comes full circle, and she's upset because she realizes that she failed the Vixen just as everybody else did by nobody saying a word, nobody going after her or doing anything in that moment. So it ends up turning into this, to me, odd Rue Asia discussion, and Rue kind of like wigs out, and Asia made the decision, or maybe didn't have like in her at that moment that thought or that process to be able to have that, you know, that moment to kind of call back and in a way, not kind of call her out, but be like, I get it. Like, you're upset or whatever, but that is not helping this situation. And I think part of it is because everyone's trying to be respectful and not really, you know, make issues or whatever. And that's where I think part of the dynamic of who Vixen is about that. You know, she's like, I will always speak my mind. I will not back down. And in a way, I think she felt like there's a game being played here, and I just chose to take myself out of the game. I don't want to do that. And I thought that was pretty bold and pretty interesting. And I think by now, the time they got to the reunion, a lot of the queens have realized like what, especially since they've seen how the season played out based on how it was put together. They probably now have a much better understanding of what other queens have talked about over the years, where who I am 360 is not represented in the show. And so everybody gets painted a certain way. And now it's on you to continue on from there, whether you embrace it or fight against it or try to do something different. So yeah, that was one of the hashtags. Another one which cracked me up comes from Monique Hart, which is me, Jesus, glitter, and rhinestones. Everything that she does, I will admit Monique may not be the most polished queen in the world, but she has more talent as a personality type that I've seen in a long time. And that's why I liked her from the beginning. And she just cracked me up so much in this episode talking about things and really having a heart to heart. I liked how they kind of made a thread of discussing spirituality. And I don't know if I thought it was very fair to bring up and have Dusty talk about conversion therapy. I get that it's a teachable moment, but and then Monique Hart's, you know, comment comes about because she was talking about, you know, trying to be a person in the church. And I think, what did she say? She's 5th generation, like deaconship or ministry. And I was like, ooh, I didn't realize it was that
5th generation Episcopal or something like that.
Yeah. So I thought that was good. And then that led into a conversation. And then Rue actually, you know, they kind of said this thing and I really liked it about the ministry of drag, because Monique was talking about, I think it was at DragCon, that this little, you know, boy of color came up and talked to her. And she realized that in that moment, she was able to be for him who was never there for her, that she didn't have that opportunity to see and meet and to know. And that, you know, really mattered a lot to her. And Rue agreed with her. Like, yes, that is one of the gifts that you have in being who you are and having these opportunities. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I'm looking at the live chat. James mentions when it came up that Kameron was not a working queen when she was cast, it made sense. She'd been on pins and needles all season thinking she was going home every week. I think we've been seeing Kameron's insecurity. Yeah, I thought that really interesting that Kameron opened up and was like, when I auditioned, I hadn't been doing drag. Like, I had left the scene and was just doing hair professionally. And then, what kind of cracks me up a little bit about it is, girl, you put in an audition tape. What did you think was going to happen? Obviously, you must have thought that you weren't going to get on, because the way you describe it, you suddenly had to scramble to get your shit together to show up. And I'm like, okay. Like that, it explains a little bit more about like your personality, that you felt you were not at the level that everybody else was, because I think for the most part, she felt the cast had been trying for years to get on or to, you know, work in clubs and that kind of stuff.
It's interesting to think about that. So if Kameron wasn't currently working at the time, her skills had to have been really fucking good if Rue was like, you know what? You've beat out all these other girls to come on my show, even though you're not working.
Well,
not honing your skills.
Yeah. I mean, my understanding was from Kameron's backstory, she had been doing drag and then stopped doing drag and then went back to drag and apparently stopped doing drag again. Because she talks about that there were like when she got tattoos and when she really like focused on working out all the time were during times that she wasn't doing drag because of boyfriends or whatever is kind of the way I took it. So that made me think, okay, like I can understand that. Like you're struggling in your own life. Like, who am I and where am I going to go with this? And I don't know the state of Tennessee that well, but it is not necessarily in my mind a hotbed of drag entertainment in terms of a big city that I would expect to go see girls that are making a full-time job out of it. So I can also understand where that's a factor in your decision to pursue it or not pursue it. I mean, yesterday there was a drag brunch here in Erie, and that hasn't happened in a while. But what I realized is like, it's a queen who has taken it upon herself, who isn't really around here much, but comes to here and works hard ahead of time to set up a venue, sell tickets, all this stuff. Apparently it was sold out. It was a great show. I heard a lot of good things about it, but it's not at the local bar. Like she basically was like, I have to make this shit happen.
Yeah.
And that says to me, you know, that she's really kind of focusing on it in a way like, well, then if that's the way it is, that you're willing to put that in. So to go back to what you're saying about with Kameron, I'm like, yeah, I can see that she was stunned or surprised. And then from there, I mean, if this really was her mindset, then she spent a long time just constantly like, I don't know, probably feeling like a cat in a room full of rocking chairs, you know, it just didn't want to get pinched or whatever and be misstepped or something. I don't know. I feel bad for her because, well, I'll get to that in a little bit. So normally we talked about Snatched, which is about the Untucked, but there was no Untucked. I mean, what is there to untuck about this? I was thinking more about like what probably stood out, like what really kind of snatched the attention, so to speak. So Chester, what did you think about the drama, so to speak?
Obviously the biggest snatch of the whole entire episode was the Vixen walking out. Mm-hmm. Which I have no doubt she planned on doing that anyway. I just, looking at her body language and the way she was talking, she wanted to make a point. She had it predetermined in her mind that she was going to do that. Not at all surprised. But what I found interesting was the extreme ends of confrontation with people, where you've got the Vixen going off, interjecting when somebody else is speaking. You know, this is the one thing that bothers me about her is she's constantly talking about demanding respect, but she doesn't give it back to anybody else. If somebody is being confrontational to her, she's always throwing it back and not letting them talk. As soon as somebody starts speaking, she interjects and talks over them. And she's got to be loud and swearing the entire time. That solves nothing. It's not healthy conversation. So it didn't at all surprise me during the reunion show that we got to see all of that. Again, you've got Rue asking her questions and she's jumping in on the other people talking. Eureka is over here on the opposite side of the room talking in a calm, collected manner. And you've got the Vixen talking over her constantly, which all that does is bring up the anxiety and emotional stress levels in Eureka and, you know, everybody else they're talking to. So I just thought that was funny compared to Kameron, when they're discussing her and everything going on there, everybody's cool, calm, and collected, and they're having a discussion, and nobody's talking over each other. Nobody's swearing up and down. Nobody's being combative with their speech. It's so weird to see that both of them are being, singled out and questioned why they do what they do, but one is cool, calm, and collected, and the other is screaming at the top of her lungs.
Well, so part of what you were describing about the Vixen, I was going to say, wait, are you describing Eureka? About being loud and talking over other people? So there was a moment of the reunion that stood out to me so importantly. And all I kept thinking is, Eureka girl, I hope you go back and you watch this reunion. And then you stop the tape. Yes, because it's on VCR. Just work with it. And she rewinds it. And she goes back and she watches it again. She rewinds it. She watches it again. Because Rue says to her, and sometimes you don't have to say anything
at all.
And Eureka won't shut up. It was killing me. I was like, she don't get it. She don't get it. She don't get it.
While I agree, but I don't think it's fair to question somebody and then don't let them give you an answer.
Correct.
There are many times if you go back and you look at all those confrontations between Eureka and the Vixen will say something, Eureka will start to respond, and then the Vixen immediately jumps in over top of her response. That's not respectful. That's not holding an open conversation. You are not letting that person speak.
Right.
And I'm not saying Eureka doesn't do it, but I do feel bad for her and any other person that's on there when they want to say something. Eureka's a lot like me. When I have a point to make, it takes me a really long time to get there because my mind is constantly searching for the right words to say so I can be as descriptive as possible and transparent. And it doesn't always come out quick. When I'm put on the spot, especially when it's confrontation, my mind stops and I have to, really pick and choose my words. So I understand where Eureka comes from in that aspect because I go through it myself. She is trying to find the right words, and if she's not able to speak and let somebody or let the other people allow her the ability to speak and get her thought out, I'd be pissed off too.
And I don't disagree with you. I think there is a difference between being able to talk and knowing that you don't have to respond. So yeah, when you're asked a question, you should respond. I mean, that's part of how we engage conversation. But when a person makes a statement, it is not necessarily meant that you have to reply. You can choose to not say anything. I mean, there's tone and inflection and things about the way language works that gives you the impression they want you to say something. But that's the thing I think that Rue was kind of focusing on. And I think some of the other girls were saying is you just never you just don't stay silent, or not say something. And I think that was more the kind of the point in that moment I was referring to is sometimes you could just be quiet. Like you could not respond. Like you could let another person have a thought and you don't have to one up it or comment or, kind of be the one that gets the last word in. I think is more what some of the girls were kind of talking about in a way.
Right. And I will agree that is true, but you can't ask somebody a question and then not let them respond.
Correct. And I think that both of them, the Vixen and Eureka, feel that they have things that they want to say and what they want to put in. I feel I understand now much better the Vixen's mindset, where she comes from on a lot of things, especially about her and Eureka, what happened this season and the fight that they had in Untucked in the one episode. And like the Vixen talks very openly about like after the season aired, and then she saw what Eureka said in front of the camera that Vixen never knew, that Eureka purposefully engaged her in the argument at a certain point to basically get the Vixen to react a certain way. That's when the Vixen kind of wrote her off and was like, no, like, I spent months thinking I was a bad person, that I can't maintain myself, that I have problems with you, like with people, about how to communicate. And then come to find out it wasn't all me. You actually created that. And what Rue was trying to say was, yes, but you have a choice not to respond.
Right. Exactly. That's what I was just about to say. While that is true, I think she was a little bit baited into having that argument. You have to own the fact that you were baited in that argument. Push comes to shove, you said what you said, you behaved the way you behaved.
Right. And I think that's the part that Vixen was not understanding or picking up or whatever. And I knew that's where I think Rue was trying to go with the conversation, which is to say, you are ultimately always responsible for your own behavior, no matter what, unless you have a medical condition that is undiagnosed, or you did not take medications for something you are aware of. Like, you are ultimately responsible for your actions, and your actions stem from your thoughts, and your thoughts stem from your feelings. And if you don't go through that and consider, why am I upset? Why am I angry? Why do I want to say these hateful things or hurtful things? Or why do I want to talk this way? You know, what's happening in this moment? You know, you're not really in the moment, honestly. In some ways, you're having you're not even really having a conversation per se, because you're not listening to, you know, understand what the other person is communicating. You're just listening to respond, which is a tactic to say, you're just waiting for them to stop yapping so you can get out your point, which means you have kind of tuned out, like you're not even listening.
Right.
And I think that's something that's happened a bunch during the course of the season, but those are kind of the two antagonists that brought that out in a way, which is unfortunate. I mean, I know that I'm guilty of it, but it's something you work on in the course of your life. And that's what I found very interesting, that Asia, basically her perspective was about that whole thing with the Vixen walking out. She, in a way, was kind of blaming, like, at the feet of the entire group of sisters and Rue, like, we let her leave. None of us made an attempt to do anything. I thought it was interesting that Rue was like, do you think she would have changed her mind? Like, you could have actually said anything or whatever. And, you know, Asia, I can't remember quite what her response was, if it was no or if she was unsure. But I think what was important to Asia at that moment was that none of us did anything. It doesn't matter whether we could have changed her mind. It's the fact that we didn't even try to help, which I think is fair. I mean, in what we have now, I think she's drawing attention to, when you see something wrong happening, are you actually going to address it, or are you just going to ignore it? And I think Asia was like, that was wrong of us. Like, obviously we should have been supportive in a way. And so I was like, okay. And then, so there's an interesting sequence of things that I want to talk about that the Vixen has stated twice that I wasn't sure is how it happened, but it happened apparently that way last year, and it happened again this year. They taped the reunion the day after the finale.
Oh.
Which is very important, because we don't see it in that order. We see it backwards. We see the reunion, and then we see the finale. Now, the reason why I point this out is because last year it was obvious. If you watch the reunion for season 9, Sasha Velour and Peppermint don't say a whole hell of a hill of beans in that reunion. They keep their trap shut for almost the whole thing. They rarely say anything. They kind of speak up, but they kind of mind themselves. But Trinity, she had no problem rolling her eyes and speaking up, and I was like, oh, it is all like Donkey Kong. Like, she and I thought, she has no fucks to give. She knows she's not going to win. And so then when we watched the new version of the finale and we know who the final two were, I was like, yep, Trinity already knew.
Yeah.
Like, I'm out of this. Like, I got no skin left in this game. I am not going to win. So I don't need to play any way, you know, in my behavior. And then when we watched this past Thursday's episode of the reunion, I noticed that the top 4 queens were kind of quiet. And there was kind of a pageant-esque aspect of them. I think Asia and Eureka were probably the two that actually talked the most. And so, you know, James said in the live chat, he said, I have to wonder, did Asia screw herself out of the crown by arguing with Rue after the Vixen's exit? Which made me wonder, that was one of the things I thought that might have been a tell about what happens in the finale to come, because Asia was struggling to find words and how to talk. And I think she was trying really hard to not talk back. Like she was trying to say something without being confrontational or whatever. Because in her mind, she knows ultimately what happens between now and the taping, or not the taping, the airing of The Crown, that remains to be seen. And from all accounts, despite all the online theories and rumors, Rue is the ultimate decider and informs, I think it's World of Wonder who informs VH1 which of the two crownings to air. So ultimately, it isn't until the queens are in that, usually it's a bar in New York City, as to which one who really got it. So I could get like, yeah, it's this big political game. Like you never know how you're going to misstep at any moment to kind of say something and then, you know, screw yourself or whatever. So I think it's interesting James brought that up. So for me, my my snatch thought is sisters that support each other, ? And that's because there definitively was a bit of a kind of like aspect of things this year where, you know, some of the girls checked in on some of the other girls, and then others like were radio silent. And like there seemed to definitively be like some of them do talk about the camaraderie and how close they are, but this is really where the dynamic about the us versus Kameron thing, I think, really played itself out in the discussion, which was like, yeah, we did gigs together, but you never really seem to be involved and have a conversation. I mean, I just watched a video this morning of Cracker, Monet, and the Vixen in Canada. I think they were in Toronto for Toronto Pride, and they were booked to do something there for the Night of the Stars, I don't know, something like that. But they were on a morning talk show. So girls were done up, full face hair, outfit, the whole thing, for a morning talk show, which means it had to be like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. And the three of them were there. And so Cracker's closest to the interviewer, and then it was Monet and Vixen. And I noticed that Cracker was making a point in the conversation to let all three of them have first chance to respond. So they would all basically respond to a question, but like the first time Cracker led, then she let Monet led, and then she let the Vixen led. So they were being very amicable and getting along. And I think that's part of like the promo gig, like, you know, that you kind of want to have united front and that kind of stuff. But that also aired right before the reunion aired. And I was like, oh, this would have been so good to see if the reunion had aired and everybody knew that the Vixen walked out, because I know that would have been a question of discussion on that talk show, and they never brought it up. They were playing some silly game of trivia and some other stuff and things. But I was like, I'm like, very interesting. So now I'm just like, I'm kind of on the lookout to see what gets said and where things go. But I found it very interesting. I was like, I don't know if I would agree that everybody here gets along with everybody else and how they feel. And then there was a weird comedic moment. I think they were trying to end the drama on a light note. So they smashed and edited heavily the last official Library is Open reading challenge. And it appears all the queens were asked to bring their own glasses because everybody had glasses that matched their outfits from the looks of it.
Right.
And go ahead.
I really enjoyed Mayhem's, but let's save everybody's look for, you know, when we are wrapping up.
I have to say the clap back. So Calorie Kardashian goes first, and she nails Miss Vanessa Mateo, where she's like, how does it feel to have a catchphrase last longer than you did on the season? And that whole thing back and forth between the two of them, I was like, it really kind of cracked me up. And I'm glad they actually talked about that a little bit. That Calorie made the quip earlier in the show that she owns 20% of that company for sending Vanjie home, so to speak. But I think it's so obvious that Vanjie has a career like in another season, whether it be next season in 11 or All Stars or whatever. That's not the end of her. So yeah, I thought the reading challenge was quite comical. Where they went on this. And then it was Dusty. Man, she was doing homework. She didn't have a notebook in front of her, but that bitch had shit written and had been rehearsing because she was just wham, wham, like delivering them. And I know they didn't even probably air all of what she had to say. I was like, whoa, all right. Somebody like wanted to get their thoughts out and to have fun with that. So yeah. You ready for last call?
Sure.
Gentlemen, start your engines and may the best woman win.
Yeah, about that, Chester.
I'm so burned out on Drag Race. I think it has a lot to do with this particular season. I don't know if it's because we just finished All Stars 3 and I enjoyed it for the most part, except for, right up until Ben de la Creme pulled her stunt. I don't know if like I got my high from All Star season 3 and this season's just been so lackluster, or if this season's just been so lackluster that I just want it done and over with, or I'm burned out on Drag Race altogether. I don't know. But what I do know is a lot of people feel the same way. We are anxious for this season to be done because we're tired of watching it. We've sunk what? How many months into this show? 8?
Hang on. We are now officially 5 full months.
Okay, still 5 months of Drag Race.
It feels like 8.
And they're talking about doing season 11 and All Stars 4 back to back in the same manner. And I can't handle that.
Well, so here's my thought on that. I think they learned a lesson. If they're going to do season 11 and then they're going to roll into season 4, which I don't want them to do, for the record, I would like a break. Like, take a month or 2 off, please. But I think the lesson they learned is All Stars is better than a regular season because you're more invested. You know these queens. You've already seen them. And they up the ante. Like, the bar is raised. So if you thought, like, they had their shit together before, you ain't seen nothing yet. And I think that All Star season 3, like, had some great personalities and contestants. And, that was one of the things that really kind of drew people in. I mean, look at us. We were like rabid about the whole BB being back and whether or not she should have been there and whether or not she was a plant and all this bullshit. So, I mean, there was all this kind of like frothiness about that. And then, so yeah, like we've already discussed, you get to the end, we have the weird ass ending with the vote thing that kind of blew up backwards on everybody. And this is not shade, but Trixie wins and everybody's like, what the fuck just happened? And ta-da, season 10's here. And it was like, okay, so then we jump into it. And then I think everybody was like, oh, we got to start all over again. Like, we got to learn who these people are and figure out their shit. And there is a reason why all season long, for the beginning of the show, I have included that season 10 opening thing that they quickly dropped, notably, where Rue talks about tens across the board. Cause I'm like, yeah, funny that like was a shitty way to introduce your season. And you probably know that now and figured it out because they weren't 10s and they're still not 10s. I hate saying it, but there's one queen who probably deserves the 10s. So, which kind of gets to my last call, which is, do we have a manufactured winner? In that there has been rumor since the very beginning about who wins the season. I'm not going to spoil it, but I have a feeling that I know who the exact top 2 contestants are going to be. And either of them winning will not surprise me because there's conspiracy theories as to why one wins versus the other and vice versa. And I'm kind of like, okay, ultimately one person, the only difference is one person is going to get $100,000 check, half of which is going to go to the government. So they're going to get $50,000, which might pay off all the shit that they brought for the season. So they better ride how long ever they can until season 11 rolls around, because then the bookings are going to, you know, kind of go away. And then what is it? They get, oh, and I think this is a change, and I got to double check this. I believe it used to be you got a lifetime supply of Anastasia makeup, and I believe now it is a 1-year supply of Anastasia makeup, which cracks me up, because that is really true that they ended up switching that at some point. I'll be like, oh, that shit must have got expensive to be like, because I think Bianca won a lifetime supply. And
well, she's old. She's got to fill in all those cracks.
Oh my God. Shady bitch. So she probably cackle over you saying that. Because she tends to, I mean, she's a big, like, she has no problem like market promoting when she gets shit that's for free, or that sends her stuff, or she buys things. I mean, hell, I think you're aware she has her own makeup remover now. So she was always talking about these magic pads. She talked about them during her season. She talked about them after her season online. You can buy them from Amazon. I've actually bought them and used them. It's a facial wipe. It's kind of like you remember Oxy 10 back in the day for acne? Yeah. So it was this little medicated pad, and it helped with your acne. It's the same concept. It's a you know, round cottony kind of disc or whatever fiber, and has chemicals in it. Well, only this is like to help take off extra oil and smooth out your skin and blah blah blah. But anyways, she's been using it for years, and then she worked with that company, Magic Pads or whatever, and now it's literally called the Bianca Makeup Remover. And she did this whole hysterical online campaign that all of her sister drag queens would, after a gig with like a little cell phone camera, use it to take off their makeup. But Trixie's was the one that was not great, but really hysterical, because she did it backwards. And she's like, I have to take all my makeup off, but it's her as a boy. Then she's, and then of course, you know, it's not a very good edit. And then all of a sudden she's got all her makeup on, and she's Trixie. You know, it was quite comical. I was like, But yeah, so I mean, she rolled out a product line kind of thing. But this, the makeup thing, I could go back and, because I swear I thought I caught that they said they get a 1-year supply, and I was like, 1 year. I was like, what happened to lifetime? But so we'll kind of see how that goes. But yeah, I kind of feel like when you're a manufactured winner, and I don't like feeling this like, okay, what is it? 4 nights from now? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 nights from now, it'll be over. And I don't mean like, oh, it'll be over. I'll be like, it'll be over. Like like I said, it's been 5 months. I'm looking up on my calendar. We started the end of January, I think, with All Stars. And then I think, what is it? We got to March, and then it just rolled straight into season 10. So I'm just kind of like, okay. I think I'd like to go back to, I'll go see them when they're on tour. You know? And that to me will be enjoyable, you know. There's the Haters Roast tour. That's a thing. There's the Work the World tour. There's, of course, the Season Queen tour, but then there's like 4 or 5 other offshoots that have come out from this kind of stuff that I'm more like, yeah, I think I'd rather go see that. Well, hell, I went to the Christmas Holiday Spectacular thing and saw that fun stuff. So yeah, I think that helps deal with the lack of there being a show. I just wish that they would give us a break on the whole show thing and not, you know, kill us over.
Hopefully when they get done with season 11, they don't immediately go into All Stars 4.
Well, so to go back, what I was going to say is, I think the lesson learned, Chester, is because All Stars is better than the regular season, it's probably better that if I don't want it to be for the record, but if they are back to back, the All-Star season is the thing you'll probably be more interested in and more like engaged with, right, if that makes sense. Because most likely it will be contestants that you want to root for, for winning. But even then, I mean, there's so much complexity behind that. Like Bendela Kren talked about the fact that I think she was approached 4 or 5 times before she finally agreed to be on All-Star Season 3. She kept telling them no. And I'm trying to remember, there's been some online like conspiracy I call them conspiracy, like rumor videos on YouTube about who else was asked and declined. So there's a part of me that's like, yeah, so we got like 126 queens now or whatever. But some of the queens that will go back, I think there's 2 categories for an All-Stars. Queens that left early that feel that they need to be justified to kind of see how far they can really get. And queens that are super fucking serious about playing the game, like Shangela was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That basically did their homework and did everything in their power to win. And, had almost no stopping them kind of a thing. And I think those are the 2. And I think the other queens are just kind of like, I'm good, I'm doing my thing and it'll be fine. So, and I'm very curious. I have not signed on to the bandwagon about who is in season 11. I know that in your area, there is a queen locally that everyone has got wet panties about because they think they're a part of season 11. I am half calling shenanigans on it. And I pointed this out to some people. I said, now, if this person really is on the season 11 cast and y'all are saying that's why they're gone from the scene right now, it doesn't make sense because they normally don't record the show this early, like while they're also airing another season. They usually record like July, August into September. So it is May, June. And we haven't even aired the finale yet. So I don't know how much I believe this whole speculation and excitement about someone being on there. It's not that I don't want them to be on, but I'm just like, maybe they really are out legitimately for a medical reason. Maybe. So I would ask you to be the dogged reporter and kind of sleuth that out in Columbus, but that's not fair because you're not really necessarily a journalist, and I don't even know if you'd know who to.
And I'm not overly connected with people here, so
that's true. That said, speaking of being connected, there's plenty of ways that you can get in touch with us here.
Oh, wait, no.
Oh, okay. Sorry. What?
We got to talk about their looks.
Oh, all right. Go ahead. I mean,
well, there's people we haven't even discussed, like Yoo-hoo, whatever her name was.
Hamasaki, who came as the girl from The Ring.
What the fuck was that?
I thought it was fucking brilliant. I don't think it was great, but I thought it was brilliant.
Oh my God. After seeing her in the reunion show, I'm like, okay, I'm glad she went home earlier.
Oh.
I really liked Mayhem's look. I loved her fro.
Okay.
Also, did you notice that Calorie was snacking on a bag of popcorn?
All right, so get this. Monique Hart shows up as a box of popcorn. Like that's what her outfit was representing, was kind of like the little box of popcorn, like not the bucket, but like a little box of popcorn you would probably get when you go to the movies. It was like red and white striped or whatever. It was very cute. And then I figured out, I think that bitch brought popcorn for everybody.
Uh-huh.
And yes, Calorie on camera was caught snacking, eating the popcorn from the second row.
Vanessa's outfit was okay.
I really liked that. I thought it was an interesting decision to go as a widow.
Yeah,
because she had the veil and that kind of deal. Seeing photos of her from the reunion, not just sitting there, but there was like actual promo shoots. I thought it was a beautiful like black gown with the gloves and all that. She just cracks me up because she looked almost Hollywood starlet, like from a previous decade. But when she opens her mouth, she does not sound anything like her look. I'm like, okay, girl.
Andy Carson.
I like Dusty Ray Bottoms.
I really enjoyed the way Dusty looked, and I think if Michelle would have seen her face with the dots, she would have got it.
I think she does now. I think when she first got on her was at the very beginning of the season, and it's still a contention point to this day that Michelle is the bad judge, is the Simon Cowell of drag, so to speak. You know, kind of nitpicks on stuff, and even Dusty said, like, this is what I'm known for. And then I think Michelle was like, so we're going to see it every week. And there was a part of me that's like, yes, the answer is yes, you bitch. Like,
yeah,
maybe they'll be big, maybe they'll be small. Like, maybe my eyebrows will be completely made of dots. Like, what the fuck? I really loved her hair.
Yeah.
It was this crazy kind of like Helena Bonham Carter blonde, like, you know, Queen of Hearts thing, but super teased out. It was insane and crazy.
Yeah, I thought Dusty looked really great. I loved Mayhem's look. She looked straight out of The Ladies' Man.
Is that a movie? I don't think
I
don't think I know.
It's from the late 90s, early 2000s.
Oh, now I gotta go look that up. The Ladies' Man.
But the main guy in there looked like he was from the 70s, but it wasn't the 70s.
Okay. I mean, yeah, she definitely. Oh. All right. It's a Tim Meadows played Leon. I get it. Okay, yeah.
I don't remember what Blair St. Clair had worn.
Blair St. Clair had red wavy hair. She did her vintage,
right? Okay,
kind of Hollywood deal.
There was nothing. She looked good. There wasn't a wow factor to it.
I would have to agree. Like, she had black piping that looked like boning but wasn't boning, and she had this very interesting, like, pastel light pink cross leopard print, like, fabric for her kind of look. It was supposed to be like naughty nighty ish, I guess. I don't know. That was Blair St. Clair.
I didn't really care much for the Vixen's look. Monique Hart, I thought it was funny.
I have to agree that the Vixen's was kind of boring to me. I mean, there was nothing wrong with it. It was white and gold. It was okay. It just didn't, I guess, kind of make a statement. So Kameron, while pretty,
Kameron looked good.
It was boring. And I say it was boring because it looks like a lot of her other stuff. It's kind of a crown thing that she made. It's kind of pearls. It's kind of pastel.
Yeah, but that's her thing.
Okay. It is, but I guess it's just not exciting.
Right. I wasn't like wowed by it. I liked it. I just wasn't wowed by it.
So Asia O'Hara had a classic kind of like pageant Vegas showgirl kind of like bedazzled the house down leotard deal, big chunky ass jewelry. It's one of my only beefs, as I was like, girl, can you even move your neck without like getting pinched? Or like, I thought that was a little crazy, but she had them crazy, I don't know what they're called, but they look like foxtail kind of fur wrap. Like, you know, it's not all like fake mink or whatever, but like they have like kind of it's almost like it's a tassel kind of, or a tail or whatever. But I thought, to see how she actually looked, I thought that looked really good.
Cracker looked really nice.
Cracker looked like a Lady Godiva that didn't know she was gonna be Lady Godiva. I don't know. I just wasn't really thrilled. I thought the hair looked pretty good, but I wasn't happy with a nude illusion bodysuit that doesn't exactly match her skin tone and had very few rhinestones or whatever on it. I was like, okay.
Hey, really quick, while we're talking about Cracker, her being on Bon Appetit with that other person, Carla, whatever her name was.
Yes.
Making ravioli was a video that I didn't know I needed in my life.
Okay.
But I loved every minute of it.
I have gone down a YouTube hole of watching the Bon Appetit, like not all the series, but Carla specifically as a senior food editor, I think. She has done this whole series of making gourmet versions of popular things. She has made Twinkies. She has made Gushers. She has made Skittles. And so just in my YouTube, because I watched all those other things, this thing came up out of nowhere that she does this thing with with and actually I think it's a different person on the Bon Appetit staff, but yes, that they do this whole back-to-back cooking segment. What cracks me up is they are in the Bon Appetit kitchens in New York City, and the rest of the staff is there doing their normal thing, and nobody is batting an eye about the fact that there is a full up in drags queen.
7-foot drag queen.
Well, 6 foot.
Well, with her hair.
Yeah, it's Cracker. She's small. Like, it just cracked me up that she was there, but Cracker knows how to cook. That was the most key thing about the success of that, was while she wasn't getting it exactly right, like, this was an excellent example. I would use this in a training class if I could, even though it's a long segment. It's an excellent use for like technical customer service skills where you have to describe things to someone who can't see what you're doing. It was an excellent example of how what you say is so important, because while she's getting instruction, she's not giving always the most accurate instruction.
Right. There's a difference between saying, turn this object to the left and turn this object 90 degrees to the left.
Correct.
One is precise, one is open to interpretation.
Right. Or take your crimp tool that you're going to use to edge the ravioli, and what she didn't say was, make sure it's dead center between the center of the filling, mounds or whatever. So it was quite comical to me. But no, I thought that was a lot of fun. And of course they got to say, the dinner line that Cracker loves. So no, that was really good. So I wasn't thrilled with Cracker's look, but it wasn't bad. I just think it could have been better. And then we've got, last but not least, Eureka and Aquaria. So I have a little beef with Eureka. She changed her hair. So if you see her promo reunion shots, she had a loaf that looks like a candle tip. It actually goes from like blonde to orange or some shit. And it's got like a little curl or whatever. But when she's on camera, she's wearing something more subdued, and it's a lot of curls and stuff. And I'm wondering if she was told to wear that one for camera because it might be too difficult for them to fit her hair into shots or something because it was so tall. I don't know. But her puffy cloud and sky blue with gold, it was all right. It
was typical Eureka. It looked nice. Wasn't any wowed by it.
No, I thought it was interesting. Now, I am going to own this. I think Aquaria slayed them all. She showed up in that suede brown cow coat jacket one piece that was studded, and with that felt hat, feeling her Joanne Lady Gaga, with the one feather that I thought was going to annoy the fuck out of Vanessa sitting right behind her. I was waiting for her to just poke her in the face with it. I thought, and then she did freckles and like the blonde brown, like short hair. I was really, really taken. I was like, wow, you did your homework. You really came with such a composed look. And in a way it was a little shady, because I was like, oh, I guess we're going to show what brown cow really looks like to poor Monique Hart. Instead of, was it Monique or Monet? I'm trying to remember. One of them about the whole giraffe versus cow print thing. So yeah,
I don't remember.
But I was really taken with what Aquaria put together. She is, and I don't like using this comparison, but she is a lot like the Vixen, or not the Vixen, Violet Chachki, in that she definitely has an eye for fashion and knows quite well what to put together, which has been a criticism I've seen online, that people think that Aquaria is going to be the winner because Rue feels that fashion is really important for whoever is going to be crowned. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I would say that Sharon Needles was known for fashion or Bianca Del Rio was known for fashion, so I don't know if they're trying to like make a point of, if she wins, that's why she would win. So it's difficult to say in that case, but yeah, I think that was everybody from the reunion. I'm looking through the list of
yep, I believe
cast
so.
for that. We were talking about Mayhem's and how much you liked it. I will say this: when they did the reading challenge and Mayhem pulled out them big ass shades, I was like, "Oh, girl!" I was like, "Somebody thought this shit out." She knew that would go with that outfit.
It reminded me of Garnet from Steven Universe, because Garnet wears very blocky glasses, and she has a fro, although it's square on her head, it's still an afro. So when she put the glasses on, I was like, if you color that just right, you'd look like Garnet.
Well, all right, you bring up an interesting point. Which of the Rue girls do you think could pull off Garnet? Because Garnet to me is all right. Because I was about to say that I think Garnet is an Amazon in that she is tall.
Yes.
And like, I don't want to say masculine, but itty bitty waist, big thighs. So like, I'm trying to think dimensionally, like, what queen do we think could kind of pull that off as like a cosplay or whatever? I think that would be very interesting. So yeah. Anything else before we wrap up?
Nope.
Okay. If you do want to get in touch with us, there are plenty of ways to do that. You can go to our website /blog, which is cubsoutloud.com. You can send us an email, which is cubsoutloud@gmail.com. You can call us on our phone line and leave a voicemail message. It would be 361-COL talk. That's 361-265-8255. Social media outlets: Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, Google+, YouTube, all of that jazz. Type in Cubs Out Loud as one word. You'll find us. If you would like to join our Entourage social chat, you would do that by going to tinyurl.com/telegram capital C, capital O, capital L, capital D, capital R for COLDR for Drag Race. And then if you want to support us, you have two ways to do that. You can get merch from zazzle.com/cubsoutloud. You can get a hat like I'm wearing, or you could get a Cubs Out Loud Drag Race shirt. I went back to the light pink one, so you can kind of see the design there. So it's got a nice crown. It says Drag Race. It's fun, but we have other things as well you can get from there. And if you're interested, you could actually join us as a patron over at patreon.com/cubsoutloud. And for as little as basically a quarter a show of our regular show, you could support us. During Drag Race season, it's insane because we're basically doing 2 shows a week, which means actually you get 8 shows a month for as little as $1. To join. In fact, yesterday when we did a patrons only show for Jeff and I think we got 1 or 2 people to join Patreon, which is fun and exciting. If you would like to keep in touch with us in terms of the podcast itself, you can go to iTunes and rate us. You can go to Google Play Podcast, subscribe, search rate, give us a thumbs up to find COLDR. So it's COL Drag Race to locate us. Chester, if they would like to get in touch with you, how would they do so?
You can find me on Tumblr or Twitter under the name The Pup Up There, or various bear dating sites across the net under the name Pup Shutter or Cupcake76.
Great. If you would like to get in touch with me, I can pretty much be found anywhere as GareBear73. That's GARBEAR73. And with that, we're going to take it to the moon, and we'll see who gets crowned on Thursday night. Maybe. There we go. Good night, everybody.